Hey there folks, welcome back to another video. Today is a glorious day because we are looking at the Mafex Spider-Man No Way Home Tobey Maguire figure. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty guys, so here is the box right in center. This is the first Mafex No Way Home figure I have. I never picked up the upgraded suit, although I would like to. But it does seem like they're going to have some matching packaging throughout, so that's pretty cool. You got the integrated suit kind of design throughout, which is very reminiscent of the rest of the No Way Home figures, you know, through Hasbro and other toy companies and SH Figuarts and all that. So that is pretty cool. You got a picture of Tobey right there, a nice layout of the accessories, which is pretty cool. All your proper information down there, all your legal information, another figure, picture of the figure, some posing of the figure, another picture of Tobey right there. Glorious. So without further ado, let's crack it open. So here is the figure cracked open. You can see all the accessories right there. We have the beautiful array of hands, feet, obviously the plain figure. You can get a little glimpse of the portal in the background, the device that was used on Sandman, the loose mask, and the two interchangeable heads. So let's take him out and get a closer look at these guys. First up, here's a close look at the interchangeable heads. You have this one more stern look on Tobey. Actually, this is sideways. This more stern look on Tobey, which looks beautifully painted from the viewfinder. From what I can tell, it looks really, really good. There's a look at the smiling head sculpt. Got a little blemish up there by the hairline, but overall, it looks pretty good. A little bit messed up by the ear, but I would say it's not too bad. I really do like this. I like the idea of the messier hair on the SH Figuarts, but I think that this face looks a little bit more like Tobey. I know what they're going for with the SH Figuarts though, but I think this one just looks really nice. Here's the masked head sculpt. Of course, this is accurate to No Way Home, which is in everybody's cup of tea, including mine. I would love to get a custom head sculpt on this guy, but this is what we got for now. He comes with two fisted hands. He comes with a pair of thwip hands, a pair of relaxed, or actually these are probably mask holding hands, a pair of wall crawling hands, a pair of saluting hands, another pair of, you know, wide open gesturing hands. These are probably also, you know, capable of holding the mask. Web holding hands, meme hands, pointer fingers, magnet wall crawling hands, magnetic feet. And then the last two accessories are the empty mask, which I actually think I prefer the SH Figuarts sculpt over this one, although this does look very similar to how it's sculpted when it's resting on that scaffolding in the film. And then here's the device for Sandman, which I actually think is really cool. It would be nice to see. I can't remember if they showed any of the other ones, but if this is the only one that comes with it, it's still pretty cool. But it would have been nice to see. Some of the other figures come with them. I can't remember if they do or not off the top of my head, but then here is here's Tobey. See if we can make him look a little bit less ridiculous here. So this figure does have some problems. One big one being the shine, which the actual blue on the suit doesn't look too bad. Which I think that looks pretty sharp, but the shiny red definitely throws this figure off quite a bit. He's got some proportional issues, but I have seen some people do some pretty incredible fixes in terms of fixing the shoulders. You know, when this figure was first being shown, I was certain that people just weren't pushing the arms in all the way, because you see a lot of these guys, we see these first in-hand picks, you see a lot of these guys just have the shoulder sitting all wonky. You'll see people do it in their videos too, where they have them do like a size comparison, and the figure's just sitting here with the shoulders all janked up. And I was certain that they just needed to push those shoulders in, they would look better. But as you can see, if you push the shoulders in, it actually looks a little bit worse. So this one definitely requires a mod. From what I can tell, people are taking this butterfly joint off and they're cutting off the end of it. I'm not entirely sure how that makes the shoulder sit in more, because it looks like the actual opening is too small. But maybe they're cutting this end off. I don't know. I have to go back and look a little bit more. And then I've seen some other people do some mods to widen the lats, because this appears to be, you know, a little bit of a, maybe not, I don't know. Not really as soft, but they are widening the lats with a little bit of a mod. So we'll definitely see if we can do that. I don't know if I'll add that in this video. It might be just a quick modification. And then of course people are doing a matte spray, which I haven't really decided if I want to do anything like that, because I would like to add the suit's shading before adding like a matte spray. So I don't know. I'm okay with the colors as is. It's not as orangey as I would like. I think Spider-Man, I mean, it really kind of depends on what you're looking at, because there's scenes in Spider-Man 2 where his blue looks black, his blue almost looks purpley, and the red changes with that. But I kind of really like Spider-Man 1 really has like a reddish kind of, or an orangish kind of red, and then it gets, you know, a little bit more of a true kind of cherry red in Spider-Man 2, but there is still a little bit of an orange in it compared to, like, say, like Andrew Garfield's suits. Those are really, really kind of like a cherry red. Well, his second suit, his first one, has a little bit of an orange in it too, but yeah. There's a lot of details that I go to look for when it comes to a Tobey Maguire figure. One of this figure actually does them pretty well. I like to see the spider be gunmetal. There's a lot of Spider-Man toys that'll make that black. That's not accurate to Tobey's suit. The lenses and frames are gunmetal and silver, the lens being silver and the frames being gunmetal. This is something that the SH Figuarts got wrong. Well, actually, it is accurate. It is accurate to a specific scene in No Way Home, so you can't really fault them, but a lot of toys, like the Hasbro ones and the Toy Biz ones, they'll make this white and black like the comics, whereas for the film, that's inaccurate. The gunmetal webs is more accurate than silver, which we see Hasbro do with their older figures, and even their new Spider-Man. There's a couple other details I like to find on a Tobey Maguire suit, that being that the belt in the back comes to a point, which this one does. I'd like to see that. And also the boots aren't actually cut straight across. They have this kind of dip in them on both sides. Got a peak over here, so that is really cool. I like to see that. The texturing on the blue parts is a little big, but it's crisp. The texturing on the red parts is a little bit big, but it's a little softer. So that's a little unfortunate. I think the Figuarts did really good when it came to the texturing, but this one does like a raised texture. The brick pattern's somewhat like the webs, where it's just a raised kind of section, whereas on the Figuarts it's more of an indentation from what I can recall. I have him over here, but I'm not looking at him right now, so we'll have to pick him up and show him side by side. But yeah, so there's a few proportion issues on this guy. There's a few accuracy issues, finish problems. But yeah, also I think he's got kind of like thick wrists in comparison to his hands. I don't think his hands are too small, but his wrists are a little bit thick. But, you know, and also I think they look a little bit short. Generally speaking, you'd want your thumb... Jesus, this camera is being awful today. I apologize, folks. The thumb knuckle to line up with the crotch. I don't specifically recall what Tobey's proportions look like right now, but I never seen him look, you know, he never really looked like Kurt Angle to me with really short arms, so I don't know. That doesn't look, I mean, I don't know, kind of looks a little bit off. If his wrists were a little bit thinner, it wouldn't look so short. But yeah, obviously you can adjust that and make it look a little bit better. So, yeah. Overall, I think this dude looks pretty cool. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a look at the articulation. We'll pop the other head on. And then we'll take a side-by-side with the figure arts. So with the combined head and neck articulation, you get him to look that far back, which is incredible. Didn't expect that. Get him to look really far forward. Well, actually, you know what? I take that back. It's not too crazy. You can get some dramatic poses in there, but it's not nothing too crazy. With the combined head and neck, you can get him to lean pretty far to either direction. Obviously, you get a rotation of both. With the butterfly joint, you get a lot of movement, which is insane. I had seen somebody do a comparison of the SH figure arts in this, and the kind of crossover that you're able to get with this guy is pretty dramatic. So that's pretty cool. You can get the arms to move up this far. I don't know if the modifications that anybody had done had limited or increased the articulation. That'd be interesting to see. But yeah, you get your rotation. Of course, obviously you get shifting and all that. Thigh swivel, or bicep swivel. Double jointed elbows. Aren't the best, but aren't the worst. You got a ball joint for the wrist. You can get that in any sort of configuration that you want. With the combined waist and diaphragm, you can get him to lean over that far. Get some gapping in there, which isn't ideal, but it is what it is, I suppose. You can work around that. You get some incredible twisting, of course, and then with the crunch forward, not too shabby at all. Combined with the legs, very nice. The legs also have drop downs, but we move back. A little gappy, a little crazy gaps. It's not too bad. I don't know why this camera is being so fiddly right now. Let me see if I can do it like this. But yeah, with the drop downs, the legs can move out. Almost perfect splits. I mean, he's almost there. And then the legs can go up pretty far like we had seen. Don't get really any movement back. Hidden thigh swivel. Double jointed knees work out well enough. And then you get a a ball joint in the ankle, so you can get that in any sort of configuration that you want. And then a toe joint. It looks pretty good. The foot actually looks really nice. Actually, you know what? That's something I forgot to mention. That's another detail I want to see with Tobey feet, is he should have like boxy feet. I think the SH Figure Arts did his feet a little bit better, but he doesn't have round boots like Tobey or like Tom and Andrew. He's got boxy feet. And if you have any sort of question about that, just take a look at the cover of the Spider-Man 1 box, the DVD. You'll see it right on there. He's got some big boxy feet, or boxy toes. And the SH Figure Art does that really well. The Hasbro figure didn't even try it, and he looks like he's wearing Uggs with these big, thick shoes. It just doesn't look good. This looks pretty good in my opinion, but I do think the SH Figure Arts pulled off the Tobey feet a little bit better. So I think the articulation is serviceable. It's pretty nice in some regard. It's also a little bit gappy though. So that's going to be a problem for some people, but I think it's pretty good for a Tobey and especially, but it's pretty solid for a Spider-Man overall. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the articulation. Let's take a pause real quick and compare this to some other Spider-Mans instead of just doing a size comparison. We'll get a little bit more in depth with it. Okay, so here's the two figures side by side, and I do want to mention real quick that I did start to repaint his eyes. So he has the gunmetal on the frames. I didn't finish painting it, so you can see a little bit of black, but yeah. And I'm actually failing to remember if his eyes were silver with black lenses or if his eyes were white and black. So I'm forgetting on that. I don't actually recall painting his eyes silver, but I think I might have, because it does kind of look like that, but I don't know. I think they might have been like a pearlescent white. But getting away from that, I personally think that the perfect Tobey figure lies somewhere in between these two. I think that this one has the muscle tone and it has the, you know, kind of the more pleasing aesthetic, like the way that the crotch is. A lot of people are concerned about that. But the muscle tone does a lot for this figure. This one looks a little tubular. He looks a little strange, but he has a lot better proportions, even though this one has more muscle definition. He's got better shoulders right out of the box. He might look a little bit slim, but also this is based off No Way Home. Tobey was older, and he also wore a thinner muscle suit. And also the webs on Tobey's suit, this might not seem like it makes a big difference, but the webs on Tobey's suit were screen printed in No Way Home as opposed to being a separate latex piece that were applied to the costume. That's going to make a huge difference. I mean, he's obviously bigger in Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 and stuff like that, but those webs being a physical 3D piece with a lot of depth can add size overall. So there is that, but that's a discussion for like a costume difference video. As far as the figures go, this figure does have thinner webs. He also has some better finishing. He's got a matte finish throughout with just like, look at that, just the webs are catching the light. And that's really, really nice. The brick pattern is a little bit more symmetrical, or a little bit more consistent, I should say. Depending on how it's done, where it's indented or embossed like this, that's kind of like your preference, I suppose. Engraved or embossed, I should say. I think they both look pretty good. This one does have some shading throughout the blue, but it's not really how it's supposed to look. Tobey's suit has shading in the red parts, but highlights in the blue parts. So there's not actually supposed to be shading on the blue. The lighter color should be the highlight instead of a darker color. And then, of course, he's got like ab definition in his costume in the red areas. One thing also is the webs look a little bit more stretched out on the arms and the wrists here. That's kind of a little bit more accurate to Spider-Man or No Way Home. Whereas these kind of keep more of a consistent square shape. Again, that might not seem like a difference, but that actually does make this more accurate to No Way Home because those pieces, those webs were screen printed. They stretch with the costume more than the latex webs because those were, you know, physical 3D pieces. They didn't stretch as much with the costume, so they kind of kept their square shape. So in that regard, this has some accuracy to the original costume, a little bit more than this one does. They both have the No Way Home style head. They didn't opt to go with a, you know, kind of a classic mask like Hot Toys did, although Hot Toys didn't do it very well. I think the SH Figuarts does a better job with that version of the mask than Marvel Legends. I think, or with, well, Marvel Legends too, but with the Mafex here, the finish makes a big difference, but I think that the spacing of the, maybe I'm making stuff up. Actually, the spacing looks a little bit, the spacing looks about the same, I think. Also, the angle of the eyes looks about the same. This one has a wider, the head's a little bit wider at the top than it is at the jaw. This one's kind of consistent, but the jaw is a little bit thinner, but it's a little bit more cylindrical like the rest of the body. This one's got a wider, I think that's called the cranium, I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, it kind of comes into preference. What do you think? I think this figure, like if this has some of those proportion adjustments, this would be a top-notch figure. But I still think this one has kind of better presentation with that nice finish and the nicer proportions, but he looks tubular. He's also got the cut up hips and the lack of the red with the split joints here. That's something that a lot of people have a problem with. It doesn't personally bother me. It's also on the elbows where the suit just stops. His belt doesn't come to as much of a point, so that's an inaccuracy thing. So yeah, so you have better proportions, but a worse looking body. You have worse proportions, but a better looking body. So it's kind of a strange thing here. Like I said, I think the two figures together would make a better figure. They both have really good articulation. I think the only one spot where this figure really overtakes it is where the arms cross. Because in terms of crouching, they don't really beat each other out, I don't think. I think that, I mean, maybe, no, you know what? I think that the SH Figuarts does get more crouching. You can probably, shift these up more, but they start to spread out, which if you want to do like a bicycle swing where he's got his feet kicked together, you can't really do that with the Mafex, I don't think. His feet kind of naturally kick out. No, you know what? No, that actually works out pretty well. That's kind of a classic Tobey swing, where he's like this and he's got the legs kicked forward. That's on a lot of promotional art, so that's pretty cool. You can get them both to do that. But yeah, I personally really like this figure, but a big problem I have isn't even this. I don't care about this. It doesn't bother me on any of the Spider-Man figures I have from SH Figure Arts. The problem I have is the lack of muscle definition. I think the webs are almost perfect. They even, like specifically on the torso with Tobey's webs in the original trilogy, they would stay a same consistent, like a consistent thickness on the actual length of the web, but where they meet, they would kind of form this diamond pattern, and that's where the light would catch it a lot. So you kind of see that here where the light catches the intersections the most, whereas on this figure, it just looks like lines are connecting. There doesn't appear to be a thicker area where the lines meet. And that is somewhat more accurate to No Way Home. This is more accurate to the original trilogy. And I know I'm talking about a lot of things that aren't really relevant to the figure, but they can kind of give you an idea of what is more accurate to what. The kind of the way that, but also this figure does lose that a little bit. Like just right here, it does just kind of turn back into lines connecting. On the arms, it still has the light catch it in a certain way, but they still just kind of look like lines meeting. The torso is where it looks the best, where it looks the most accurate to the original suit. No Way Home, like I said, has it where it's kind of just like these intersecting lines. They don't really have like a diamond shape where they meet. And if it's hard to explain what I'm talking about, I will throw pictures up. That way it doesn't look like I'm just talking out of my ass. But yeah. So kind of moving away from these differences, I didn't grab his unmasked head, which I'm not going to do that because I already went back and forth a lot. We're just going to move away from this and we're going to take a look at Tobey's unmasked head. Specifically this one. I really like the SH Figure Arts one, but I do think that this one just looks... I think that this one probably looks better. I think if he didn't have the... I don't think that's going to look good. It looks okay. I think if he didn't have the 5 o'clock shadow, then he wouldn't really look like an older Tobey. He would look pretty standard. It seems like something that all three companies, that being SH Figure Arts, Mafex, and Hasbro, it looks like they tried to kind of, maybe less so SH Figure Arts, but definitely Mafex and Hasbro, they tried to kind of be a little bit more generous to Tobey and make him look a little bit younger. But I don't think that that was for, you know, I think that the only reason they did that was for the fans. That way they could kind of pretend that this is a younger Tobey. Because, you know, this hairstyle that he has does look very similar to Spider-Man 1. But he doesn't, like, actually look older. I think the SH Figure Arts is the only one that really looks older. But I do think that even though there is some things about this figure that are more accurate to No Way Home over the SH Figure Arts, like I said, the way that the webs are kind of done and stuff like that, those smaller details are more accurate to No Way Home, but the overall physique is more accurate to Spider-Man 2. So I think a lot of people would consider this their Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3 Tobey, and then this one can just straight up be a No Way Home Tobey. He's a lot thinner, so that kind of plays into that aspect. But yeah, I think that really the biggest thing that this figure has over this one is the finish, like I've said, and it's got like some really sharp details. That spider looks incredible. The webbing looks incredible. The printing on the webs looks pretty good for the most part. I'm seeing some hiccups right here, but the continuity and the consistency of the pattern, the brick pattern, looks really good, whereas this one looks a little bit soft. Now, I haven't seen this with a matte finish on it, so that might make a big difference. But also, if you put a matte finish on it, you kind of lose that reflection of the webs, I would imagine. I haven't actually seen anybody do that matte finish and then show it in video. I've only seen pictures, so I can't really comment on that, but I would imagine that it kind of takes away a little bit of that shine. But yeah, I mean, I can just imagine, well, I mean, I don't have to imagine, I've seen it. This figure looks really good with some proportion adjustments in the shoulders and the lats, and he just looks really good for Spider-Man 2. But yeah, this video is getting a little bit long. I just realized how long it is. So we took a look at the articulation and all that. I got my thoughts out over the figure. I think overall, he looks pretty solid. There is the base and stuff, or not, well, yeah. I kind of got what I care about out of the way a little bit more, so we're just kind of going to gloss over this. Of course, there's other reviews where you can get more in-depth looks at this, but he has the base, which is 3D. It's a physical piece like, well, the SH Figure Arts one was too, but this is a molded plastic piece like Hasbro did, so that's very cool. I do like that. I don't have that Doctor Strange figure that came with one, but I do have the SH Figure Arts version that is just a flimsy piece of plastic, so I'm excited for that. You get your webs. It looks like you get two short thwipping webs, two long thwipping webs, and then two swinging webs, which is, you know, pretty consistent with what I've seen so far, so I'm not too worried about pulling that out. And then, of course, you get your standard base. I don't want to go over such minute details and make this video way longer than it needs to be. I've already kind of done that. So, yeah. This is a character that I really care about, so that's kind of why I wanted to get in depth a little bit. I don't want to get too crazy. I want to make eventually a video kind of just talking about my, you know, kind of the things that I've noticed about the suits and the differences, and kind of my love for this version of Spider-Man. Do more videos like that. I was a little bit, especially when we seen the in-hand photos, but when they did their reveal, and then when we'd seen the in-hand photos, I was a little bit questionable. I was questioning this figure a little bit, and I was really hoping that it was going to be good, and I had seen the in-hand pictures, and it really took me out. I was really, really worried, especially since I had just gotten that Mafex Daredevil, which I still haven't finished the review on that. We will do that soon, but sometimes it gets scary. You know, you spend so much money on them, and you wait so long for a Mafex figure, and it seems like they're going to, you know, kind of let you down. But I think that this figure is really good, and I haven't spent my own time with it. You just watched me unbox it, so keep that in mind. But like, and also I'm looking through a camera looking at this. I haven't spent a lot of time looking at it just fresh with my own eyes, but like, for what I'm seeing right now, I'm pretty happy with it. And the modification that I've seen other people do make this figure look a lot better, so I'm hoping that I can do those and kind of replicate that magic. And I think this guy will just be a complete standout in the collection. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this as is. Let's take another look at that other head. As you can see right there, looks pretty solid. So we'll go ahead and take a look at some size comparisons, and then we'll wrap this video up. Alrighty, here he is compared to a couple of older Tobey figures. On the left is the official Revoltech Spider-Man 3 Tobey with the Spider-Man 1 logo, of course, because they don't know what they're doing. And the right is the Hasbro Spider-Man Trilogy Anniversary Spider-Man with Gargoyle. So yeah, he's considerably shorter than what he would be because he's hunched all over trying to stand properly. So yeah, there's that one. On the left here he is compared to a custom Marvel Legends Tobey that is in the works. And on the right is, of course, the SH Figure Arts Spidey. I forgot to grab my CT Toys Amazing Spider-Man, so here he is compared to the Figma Amazing Spider-Man on the left and the SH Figure Arts Amazing Spider-Man 2 Spidey on the right. For another Andrew Garfield comparison, here he is compared to the original Marvel Legends Andrew Garfield Spidey, at least the original Amazing Spider-Man 2 on the left, and of course the newer iteration on the right. I actually think that the new Marvel Legends Andrew and this Mafex Tobey actually go together pretty well. They both have more muscular physiques, and as far as height goes, they both work out pretty well, so I think that looks nice. For a Tom Holland comparison, here he's compared to my custom SH Figure Arts integrated suit version 2 Spidey on the left, and one of my favorite figures on the right is the Mezco homemade suit Spidey. Here he is compared to the Marvel Legends Kingpin, the Vincent D'Onofrio version on the right. Of course, this isn't Tobey's Kingpin. If he has a Kingpin, I think we'd like to assume that it's Ben Affleck's the same as Ben Affleck's Daredevil's Kingpin. Speaking of Ben Affleck, here is a custom Ben Affleck Daredevil in the works on the left. This is using a Beef Morphers Power Ranger, and I was actually worried about the height on these because obviously Ben Affleck's 6'4", but I actually think that these two would look pretty good. I think in real life at 6'4" Ben Affleck next to a 5'8" Tobey would look pretty crazy, but I think there's enough height difference right here to where they would actually look pretty good. So there's that. Here he is compared to the Merc with the Mouth SH Figuarts Deadpool on the left, and one of my favorite Spider-Mans, one of my favorite figures is the Sentinel Peter B. Parker. Now this size right here looks really, really good compared to, well, if you guys have seen the new SH Figuarts Peter B. Parker next to this specific Spider-Man, that looks absolutely crazy if you guys have seen how tall that figure is. But this right here looks pretty good through the board. So yeah, let's move on. And for your last size comparison, here he is compared to an original Toy Biz Doc Ock on the right. I'm working on making a custom right now, so I definitely got to get that done now that I got this guy. But on the left is a Dusty Infinity War Hulk. Hulk and Spidey love each other. Not necessarily these two, but it's nice to see Hulk next to Spidey, so there's that. Alrighty, guys, yeah, one more time, just to close it out, I gotta say that I really like this figure. He's, you know, my expectations were pretty high, then they went down a little bit, both with the reveal and the actual in-hand pictures. I got a little bit disappointed. I wasn't sure if I liked it, but now seeing it in hand, getting to mess around with it just a little bit, I'm very, very, very pleased, and I think this figure will look pretty incredible with just a few modifications. Now, of course, those modifications shouldn't be necessary, especially with a figure that costs as much as this. He retails for about $119. I actually got him for a little bit less than that on eBay, believe it or not. As far as I'm aware, he's still sold out on Big Bad Toy Store, but I actually did pick this up on eBay, and it came from New York. So this Spidey figure right here was sitting in New York, Manhattan, Park Row, believe it or not. So that's kind of cool. But, you know, all seriousness, I'm pretty happy with this, but I'm very, very biased. I don't think that this is a great figure, and I haven't done a review on it yet, but I've wanted this for a long time, and now I have it, and I'm pretty happy. But so yeah, I think overall this figure does have some issues, but for, you know, those a little bit more dedicated, you're able to get a very, very nice figure out of this if you just do a few of those modifications. And but even out of the box, this guy looks pretty solid. If you're even willing to just do a matte coat, this figure can probably really, really boost your collection. I mean, even if you just do this right here, you push the shoulders in, you lose the traps, and it's a little gappy, but I think that still looks pretty good. He still looks pretty muscular. And even with like a three-point stand right there, or a three-point turn, or whatever it's called, that looks pretty good. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop talking, stop yapping, and get out of here. I like this figure. I hope you do too. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe, notification bell. All that would be greatly appreciated if you decide to do so. And of course, until next time, true believers.